Hello and welcome to the July edition of the Patreon show Zed Talks. Joining me to do something very special is Colton Blue Basket Sweat.
Oh, we're gonna do something special, all right.
Absolutely special. So, as you may see on screen, I have transcribed as a little reminder all of the VGU changes that have gone into League over the course of its span up to this point. And we're going to put them in a little tier list and kind of talk about what we like about them, what we don't like, and rank them as the best to the worst. So without further ado, we are going to start in reverse chronological order. So the most recent one as of recording is Dr. Mundo. Udyr is next, but he's not quite on the PBE yet, so we're not going to be doing him. So Dr. Mundo. If we need a reminder, his old passive was just HP regen. His new one is HP regen and the CC block. His W is no longer the toggle. It's got the gray heal as well. The old E was just the active extra damage. And then the new E is the knockback, as well as some minor changes to his ultimate. But I think that's not worth talking about too much. So what do you think? What do you think about the new Dr. Mundo?
So as a fun little aside for this, as we go through them, I'm gonna tell you all the champions that I haven't played since they reworked them,
Is
and
Dr.
Mundo's
Mundo
one of them.
I see.
I used to play a lot of Mundo. I have not played him since they reworked him.
Yeah, I feel like you'd really like him. He's pretty strong currently when
I
anti
think
heal's
I
pretty
would.
weak. But I think this is sort of like I would classify this as like almost the very middle. I don't
Yeah,
think
was gonna
it's
say
bad. I don't think it's good. It's like a modernization more than like a rework, you know?
Yeah, to me, I was gonna. It's pretty mid. If I don't think you're sharing the actual tier list, so I don't know where the middle is. Probably C.
Oh, I should be sharing it. Oh, I will share my screen to you now.
But yeah, like I agree with you where it's like, okay, it's not a bad change, but I don't feel like they made him significantly better. They just made him a little less bad.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It didn't like change a ton about him, which maybe was a good thing to keep in spirit with the old Dr. Mundo. But old Dr. Mundo was a little boring. I think new Dr. Mundo is still a little boring. Maybe a little bit less so. So I would say mid.
Throw briefcase win lane.
I think we're gonna have the Mundo line basically. Anything above Mundo is gonna be a great rework. Anything below it's gonna be a poor rework. Speaking of poor reworks, Rammus. So if you can remember, the only thing that changed. Let me highlight the row. This is a little jank, but we're doing it. Was the W can be extended from autos, which is new, and the ultimate is no longer the earthquake tremors. It's the leap with the earthquake tremors afterwards.
Yeah, I would probably put this pretty low.
I would as well.
Again, it was like a bit of a modernization. It lets him access his target to get a taunt better, but like
it's just hard knowing some of the other reworks that are going to be on here. Like,
oh yeah,
we maybe the Rammus rework is good for Rammus players, but overall, I don't think it shaped a ton. So,
no.
Do you think like C, D? We can also add more tiers as we go along if you'd like.
I think he's probably like low C, high D.
Okay.
So let's leave him at like low C for now.
Okay.
We can put everything in front of him until C gets overloaded.
Sounds good. All right. So we're moving on to Volibear. So this one took me back because this one was a character that I actually did play some pre-work, not a lot, but some. So the old passive is the HP regen at low HP. The new one is obviously the Chain Lightning. The old one, his old Q was the Charge and Flip. The new Q is the Charge and Stun. The old W was the attack speed stacks, and then you get a big munch. Now you get the munch and then the big munch after you munch your marked target. The old E used to be the roar that you hated because it was so lame and pitiful. It was the AoE magic damage and the small knockback.
Yeah, he's a demigod whose roar is only big enough to scare little baby monsters.
Yeah, and now it's the new like he calls down thunder and gets a shield. And then obviously the ultimate was AoE damage and Chain Lightning previously, and now it's the Big Leap bonus HP, and he turns off turrets. So where are we putting Volibear? I want to
This
hear
is
your opinion first.
it's tough because I think it was a really good rework for a not very good champion.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he's also really frustrating to play against.
Okay.
I the biggest issue I think I have with him is that like I don't want him to be the build AP call down lightning character,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
which like generally that's not how you build him, but it has been doable several times. But I do think it was a good rework overall. Like it leaned much more into his theme, right, of like being this big badass bear. You dive into everything, like fuck you, deal with it.
That's
You can
kind.
turn off the tower. I'd say he's probably like A tier.
That's kind of how I feel. I would. I'm thinking low S, high A currently.
Yeah.
I think like this fully like from the visual that we got to the actual abilities themselves, like fully leaned into the theme of like a thunder god bear. And you definitely feel powerful when you play volley bear. I kind of agree that like thematically maybe you don't want to have the like full AP volley bear, but that's pretty niche anyway. So I would say this is like a very, very good rework, a solid rework. That is only eclipsed by some that are actually like nearly flawless in my opinion later on.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying like high A is
Mhm.
because there are other ones to come that they're so fucking
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move
Which
on.
with that, the Fiddlesticks is I think one of them.
Fiddlesticks.
But tell me, what did they change
So
about our sweet
previously,
boy?
also something that I noticed, he was released on 4/20, 2020. I'm sorry, April Fool's 2020. Sorry. I wonder, did people think this was an April Fool's joke at the time? Probably not because it was on the PvE, but so previously you stand still, and then after you stand still, you gain move speed. His new passive is the trinket, as well as damage from out of vision will fear. His old Q was the fear, and now it's the fear plus damage if they're already feared. His old W, you sucked a single target. His new W, you suck everybody around you. And then the execute. The old E, whereas the point and click target crow, and it would just bounce to everyone and really piss people off. Now it's the ground slash. And the ultimates are essentially the same as noted by my professional Excel spreadsheet.
For sure.
So Fiddlesticks. Where are we putting Fiddlesticks?
So I
There
love
is?
me
Oh,
some
there he is.
Fiddlesticks. I played him before. I played him after. I really like Fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is still room to make him better, but I think that this rework did a really good job of kind of answering most of the problem points with Fiddle in that like so the passive huge improvement before it
Absolutely.
was stupid doggy to what I think is one of the best passives in the game like
Mm-hmm.
thematically I don't think it's like particularly strong but like the fact that you put down a scarecrow that just stands still and they don't know if it's real or not again most people are conditioned to think oh it's always fake
Yes, which is leads
but
to some really fun plays.
which leads to some super fun plays if you're a maniac like me
Mm-hmm.
and are just gonna like you should put like one scarecrow in pixel bush by dragon and then you just stand AFK in front of dragon. They'll walk right at you and think that the ulti channel is fake.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, and I think that it like he never had like the scarecrow like obviously that was his look but you never felt like it right.
Yeah, I mean, you
um
felt like it when you were frozen in place, and then that was it.
Yeah, but like it didn't do
Yeah, it
anything.
didn't do anything.
And
I.
so same thing with like his E, what they like actually gave him a scythe move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
and then the ultimate being about the same with new updated
yeah.
visuals. I,
Um,
I I would agree with you. I think this is a really good rework. Definitely leans into the theme of a really scary surprise, like from the darkness. That being a scarecrow or a demon inhabiting a scarecrow.
mhm.
He is legitimately terrifying, and the reveal, like the teaser, was like
Oh,
one of
he's
the
so good.
scariest things ever. Um,
Mhm.
I'm feeling A below Volley Bear. What are you
I was gonna
feeling?
say A above
A
Volibear.
above Volley Bear. Okay. I I would be willing to swap the two if you like.
Yeah, for
Okay.
me the biggest thing is that it did a really good job of kind of answering all of the things, right? Because again, like his passive being shit, he didn't have like AoE clear, which was always frustrating. Is that like
Mm-hmm.
your clear speed was shit, even though you could stay forever at full health with his W. Um, like again, the passive becoming a thing, and then like that with it, like everything, which I guess it's
That's
kind of
true. Yeah.
overloaded to consider the like, oh, they also released a cinematic with it, but
Yeah.
God, did
You
it
know
make
what?
me want to play Fiddles?
Yeah, I'll say that like Volibear had a lot of like hype with his like the design teaser, but the Fiddlesticks hype came from the actual like cinematic itself, like the universe surrounding League of Legends versus just the Riot content.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm willing to bump up Fiddlesticks for that reason.
Hell yeah. All right, up
Next
next we
up,
got Dianna.
Diana. So essentially, the only thing that they did was swapped her E and her ultimate. Her old E used to be the pull, and her old ultimate used to be the dash and reset on Q. And now her E is the reset on Q dash, and the her ultimate is the pull.
Um,
I, I'm gonna go first this time.
yeah, do
Um,
it.
I
Tell
think
me.
this was a really good change, but I don't know if I would really put it on the level of like Volibear or Fiddlesticks. I want to put this like almost exactly at the Mundo line. I'll put it personally below Mundo just because he received some more changes.
Yeah.
This was a very good change. Don't get me wrong, and it definitely made her like better to play in almost every aspect. Like her ultimate now feels really impactful. She gets to play the game before level 6. But at the end of the day, they swapped two abilities, and that was
Mm-hmm.
essentially it, along with some minor changes. But the feel of the character feels the same. You just have access to the different parts of the kits at different times. So I
Yeah.
slightly below Mundo, but still on the positive side of the reworks.
Yeah, I do think it was a good and it was like helpful for her. Diana's a very frustrating character for me because she just does a million fucking damage, and at least right now her jungle clear speed and the damage she
Yeah.
does as a tank is super annoying. So I've got my recency bias
Yeah, and
on.
remember at the time she didn't have the bonus damage to minions. So
Yeah.
when
Um.
she initially was reworked, she wasn't as a jungler.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I think that this gave her an option to play the game pre-6, which she was kind of missing. And I think yeah, like right below Mundo is a good spot for her.
And then made her ultimate like more flashy and fun to use. Like it wasn't terribly
Yeah.
fun to use the dash like as your ultimate ability, but
Yeah, it didn't feel like the ultimate. It felt like great, I can get into Q and auto again.
yeah, great. I have access to more of my abilities.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters whose ultimate feels great, Pantheon. This is actually one of the larger ones. Probably the first like absolutely major one that we have so far. Maybe Volibear was. But his old passive, if you remember, it used to be the auto attack block after using some abilities and auto attacks. His old
Mhm.
Q used to be the point and click spear, execute on low HP. And now it's the skill shot Q, and you can charge it. Oh, his new passive is the empowering his next ability after 4 attacks or abilities. His old W and his new W are essentially the same. The new W has some, I think, an auto attack afterwards, and then 3 auto attacks for empowered. The old E used to be the damage in the cone, and it gave him some innate crit on low HP as an execute. Now it's the damage block as well as the cone damage. And his old ultimate used to be the big circle, and then he would drop straight down, and now it's the big line, and he comes in at an angle. So Pantheon, how do you feel about Pantheon?
I think this is a pretty unsuccessful rework.
Interesting, really? Okay.
I mean, nobody plays Pantheon still. I think that it was like an interesting idea, and I guess he was popular for a little bit, but I still don't feel like he really embodies what I want him to. I think his ultimate, as cool as it's supposed to be, is just kind of dog because casting it right, like you have to put your ultimate like 300 units behind your target. Um, the not take damage from one direction, I don't love. I think he's one of the few characters who's like, yeah, he's like supposed to be a proverbial like Spartan, big old shield, like that makes sense. Same with Braum, and I'm more okay with him having it than like the Yasuo's of the world, where
Yeah,
it's
of
like,
course.
oh, why can I block everything to infinity and beyond? Because wind. As opposed to like Braum, it's like, oh, because I'm a big tank with a massive shield. Makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they just kind of reflavored all of his abilities, but didn't actually really change them. And I think ultimately he's still kind of just a throw Qs until they're at half HP and then flash W kill them,
Yeah,
which
and
I don't think is a very interesting gameplay loop.
that's not that you're not the most incorrect. I do think this one was just more of a successful rework. If not simply because he actually sees play now compared to previously where like he literally wasn't picked ever. And yeah, his abilities do feel kind of like the same but a little more modern. He was incredibly busted and played in I think every role except AD carry initially. But that's probably just due to how strong his E ability was. So I would be willing to put him like low B, high C. Definitely below Dianna, but above Rammus currently.
Yeah, I'm good with him sitting there for now, but
All right,
we'll see if we
cool.
have to move him.
Mordekaiser. So this was
Need we say more? Mordekaiser S tier.
Mordekaiser S tier. So this is the Mordekaiser where previously his passive converted damage to shield. His new passive is the damage storm. His old Q used to be the three empowered autos, and now it's the slam on the ground. His old W used to be the damage storm that is now his passive, except with the bonus XP for killing minions.
And do you put on an ally to both Swirly Swirl and heal?
Yeah, you could put it on both. His new W is the damage conversion to shield as well as the heal then afterwards. His old E used to just be AoE cone damage. His new E is the pull. His old ultimate is the damage over time / ghost after killing his target and the dragon. And now it's the death realm. So Mordekaiser, I think this is like this is an example of a really, really solid rework. I don't know if we should talk about like balance because that it maybe in egregious cases like Pantheon or something like that. Because I don't know if he's ever been like really, really OP. But I think thematically, like they really, really nailed it with Mordekaiser. It feels like the embodiment of the death like army and the general leading that and
yeah,
the
like
death realm.
He is the lord of the death realm. He's coming for you. Your options are run or die.
There is no escape because he will just take you to death, and that's it.
I think like him again having like this constant storm around him really like fits much better into that, like he is the armor kind of idea where I think historically that's always been a thing with Mord is like he's just the suit of armor with like a spirit. The not having his Q be an on hit is way better because that never made sense. The pull to bring people back or the option to be able to throw them away is really good gameplay. The Death Realm is super sick, and I like. I don't know. I'm never really frustrated with Death Realm. I think it's one of the few like alts that you could QSS that I never feel like I want to. It's just like cool. Me and Mord get to 1v1 now.
I personally really don't like the Death Realm, like playing against it, but I do think it's like such a cinematic ability and something that is so core to his kit now. Like it feels like it's always been this way. Like this always should have been his ultimate, right?
Yeah.
So like in that regard, super successful. I think like you were saying, his passive being like giving you the feel of being the armor is super sick. It rewards you for staying in combat for literally as long as you can, which, hey, you're just a suit of armor. Your entire purpose is to fight always permanently. Personally think probably a little bit below Volibear, but definitely A tier for me. How about you?
I was probably going to put him like low S.
Ooh,
but
okay.
I think they did a really good job with him again, because like I think in terms of some of the other ones, like he was so bad,
Yeah, that's
and they
true.
made him a lot better.
That's true.
Whereas like Fiddles, I think, is a good example where like he was good. They just like fixed a lot of things, but well, like Mord was just bad, and
Okay.
nobody played him except for Trevor.
That's
And I think
true.
now he's like a pretty common pick. And again,
Yeah.
I think he again like embodies his theme super well, which to me personally, I think is something I always really lean on when I'm assessing their game and character design. Is
Mhm.
like it's nice if they have a like good cohesive kit, but I want the kit to actually make sense for the character, and I think they did a really good job with that for Mordekaiser.
That's fair. Yeah, I would be willing to move him up. How about like front of A,
Above
top of
Fiddle.
A?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good with that.
And again, only because I think S is going to be reserved for truly like one or two characters at the very most. Personally, next up is Kale. Her auto attacks used in Q used to shred armor and MR for her passive. Now she gets the stacking attack speed on autos, and then bonuses at full stacks when she's at level 6, 11, and 16. Her old Q used to be the red ball that would deal damage and slow you. And now it is the skill shot, deal damage and slow you, and armor shred. The W is essentially the same. I think now it just auto casts on the closest ally as opposed to just being wasted. And her E used to turn her auto's range, deal magic damage in the AoE. Now it's the execute auto AoE damage at max rank when you press your E. The old ultimate just grant invulnerability to your target. The new one, same thing, but you can't attack and you deal AoE damage. So Kaylee. I really like the new Kale. I think this is like the idea of her ascending at 6, 11, 16 and then
Mm.
becoming like fully transformed into this like just being of pure like destruction is such a good theme for this character. I think her model looks really cool after the rework compared to what it used to be. I wouldn't necessarily say it is as complete and like changed or changing as anyone in the in the A so far, but I do think
Mm.
it's above the Mundo line. So I'm thinking low
Yeah,
A, high B.
I would say probably high B right above Mundo. I like it thematically. My biggest issue with it is more of an issue of balance than of the design. But I think that this is something that historically Riot's not done a great job with, is like characters like this that scale super hard, I feel like should be weaker early. And like I can't tell you how many times a Kale has won the 1v1 at like level 1 or 2. And I'm like,
Her level 1 is actually really really disgusting. Her level 1
yeah.
is crazy good. But yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. She is
But yeah.
and it's like a hard line to balance because obviously you want Kale to feel really powerful at level 16. And you want her to have the feeling that she could actually 1v9. But at the same time, like you want it to be playable early, right? Like you don't want it to be so bad that like, okay, I'm not gonna have fun with this character for 25 minutes. Like, why do I even bother? You know.
Mhm.
So it is a fine line, like you were saying.
I'm good with like top of B though, because I
Cool,
think overall it was pretty successful.
great. Morgana was listed on here. I think we should barely talk about her. The W ticks faster than it used to, and she gets bonus move speed toward targets she's shackling with her ultimate. So very very
Yeah, it
minor
was like
change.
quality of life, good for her.
Mm-hmm.
Not even really a major rework. I would probably put her
I think very
like
bottom of B
bottom of B, yeah,
personally.
or
Yeah.
even like maybe top of C, because
Yeah, sure.
they didn't really
Well,
change anything.
I'm gonna say bottom of C. They didn't really change anything, and at least with
Okay.
Rammus they changed stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Cool. Ezreal, he's also listed on here. Also very minor change. I think it's literally just his W. Yeah, just his W. It used to
They
be
require him to have a map now.
true.
That's what they
That's I
changed.
can't believe they did that to my boy. So it used to be a line skill shot, and you would get bonus attack speed or whatever ally you hit would gain bonus attack speed, and if you E'd into your W, you would gain the bonus attack speed, which made it fun for taking turrets and then not fun for anything else because it only had an AP ratio, I believe. So it was pretty worthless as he was primarily built AD carry. And now it's the mark, detonates on other skills or auto attacks, and it refunds the skill's mana. So where were you thinking about this one? Another really minor change, like a modernization at best.
I would probably put it like top of C. Like, I find it really hard to justify this as like a strong VGU when it was just like they adjusted one ability.
So the visual effects look really, really fantastic now.
Yeah.
But I think like encompassing everything, like it's going to be hard to top like Mordekaiser's visuals, like Fiddlesticks, Volibear, Pantheon's visuals look super sick now. Where Ezreal looks much better than before, but as a whole, pretty low on the old tier list.
Yeah, and it degraded the value of Pulsefire Ezreal because all the other skins were shiny then.
True. Next up is Mr. Bunu, Nunu, and Willump.
Triple plus, best champion in the game. Move on.
So this is I imagine this will be the one that we vary the most on, because I imagine you're going to put him really, really highly, and maybe I won't. But previously, his old passive, the next spell after 5 stacks is free. Every, I think, 5th spell would be free, and it would cast 1 rank higher. His new passive is the Blood Boil and the Cleave for himself when he's hitting large monsters and champs. His old Q used to be Consume, but it had a stacking component where you would gain some bonus stats. And now it's the Consume, but a big heal on low HP. And you can cast it on champions now. I forgot about that.
That was
aspect of it. Yeah, exactly. I forgot to note that. His old W was Blood Boil, Nunu and an ally gain attack speed, move speed, and AP. And now it's the biggest snowball ever. His old E used to be the point-and-click snowball, big slow, big damage. His new E is the throw many snowballs, root champions hit. And then his old ultimate, Absolute Zero. Now it's Ultimate Zero, Absolute Zero, plus the shield.
Plus the shield,
yeah. Which is not a massive change, but change nonetheless.
So
all right, let's hear it.
Tell me. Well, so I think he's pretty middle of the pack. Like, I really like Nunu, but I don't think that the VGU, again, I don't think it changed a ton. I'd probably put him, like, right around Mundo level. Like, I think probably just above Mundo.
Okay.
Because I think, like, they fit the identity, I think, a lot better, where it's, like, the kid Nunu that's riding this Yeti, like it's much more silly now, where you just roll a giant fucking snowball and you throw snowballs at people. Like it's a lot more like whimsical, which I like, because it's like a fucking child riding a Yeti. Like it should be a weird, funny champion. But ultimately, like his thing is, okay, he's gonna chomp monsters so that he has a way to clear, because his other abilities are pretty shit for taking camps. What is he good at? Camping a lane nonstop.
Rolling it down.
He was good at that before. He's good at it now. It's just different, because now he runs in fast and CCs you. Before, he just runs up and slows you for like 80%.
And just pissed you off.
And can like permanently tower dive you. I think that, his abilities are a lot healthier now, where it's not just like, oh cool, I press W on 80 carry because attack speed and move speed. Like that was not a very fun ability to use, even if it was really good.
Yeah.
And then not just like, oh, throw point and click snowball for like 70% slow, fuck you.
It was only good because it was so disgusting. Like
throwing the skill shot's a lot more fun. I think it's more interactive and like actually gives you something to do playing Nunu. But overall, like I don't think it was anything mind blowing. They took a pretty okay champion and made him, I think, a good champion. But I don't think anyone says like, look at Nunu, the epitome of League game design.
No,
like, look at this
agree.
goofy guy who rolls snowball.
Yeah, I agree. I think a very good example of another, modernization of a character. Feels really really good to play. Definitely fits the theme, the intended theme that's there. But I would say like nothing crazy special like some of the other ones here. I was actually thinking exactly this placement between Mundo and Kale, so we'll leave it there for now.
Oh, well, you got to move him then so that you and I don't agree. Put him
Oh,
above Kale.
true. Okay. Next is Akali. So previously, I guess she had two different passives. We'll do the one that was most recent when it was changed. She had every so often she would get her next two autos empowered. One would heal and one would do bonus damage. Now it's the after she uses an ability, it empowers her auto and she has to leave the circle. Her old Q was the point and click mark, and you would consume it on auto attack. Now it's the cone damage. Her old W used to be AoE invis, and now it's the donut AoE invis. And on release, I made note it was the true invisibility under the turret. So
The mistake.
one of the biggest mistakes. Yeah, I actually don't think it would be a mistake if it were her ultimate, but it was just regular ability. So. Her E what used to be just an AoE slash around her, and her new E is the throw shuriken recast to follow to the target, to jump to the target, and then her old ultimate used to just be 3 point and click dashes, on a charge based system, and now it's the R1 dash over the champion, R2 execute, the recast. So Akali, I think this is a character that like previously saw very little play, wasn't necessarily fun or interactive to play. Definitely a product of being made in 2009 2010. Now this is a character that I think we do have to consider balance for, just because she's been so problematic. Thematically they nailed it. Like I think like thematically and a lot of her gameplay wise, like absolutely super solid. I'd probably put this low A. If she didn't have some really really disgusting stuff on release.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna slide her. I'm gonna slide
I think-
her. Oh, I was gonna slide her just above. No, low A. You're right.
I think like as much as like that's frustrating, I do think that like again it went from such a boring kind of straightforward champion to someone who can do these like ridiculous like flashy ER like combos. Like she feels so much more like this flying in and out of the fight everywhere ninja, and as frustrating as she is and as like stupidly strong as she's been at times, I think the design is fine.
Yeah. No, you're right. The design itself is so good,
and aesthetically they made her way cooler.
Yeah, for sure. I think
she went from just like generic ninja girl to like an absolute baddie who you're like, fuck, she's gonna murder me.
I hope she kills me.
I want her to fucking
kill me, Akali.
Kill me first.
Yeah. Next up, also another baddie, Aatrox. So previously, his old passive used to fill the blood well with his abilities, and you would revive at max blood well stacks. Now it's the empowered auto. It used to be the jump up into the air and dive at an angle, and now it's the 3 cast knock up sweet spot. The old W used to be a toggle where every third auto you would either heal or you would deal bonus damage that cost health. So you would toggle between, being unkillable via healing or dealing a ton of damage. The new W is the chain, and it pulls you back if you don't leave the little zone. The old E used to be the, I'm calling it the triangle damage, where it would be like 2 converging lines that met far away from you, and it would slow. Now it's the short dash and the spell vamp, sort of physical vamp, I think it is. And his old ultimate used to I have become big, bonus attack speed and range, and now it's become big, bonus attack damage and healing, reset on kill. So Aatrox, this I'm gonna put pretty highly. Probably gonna start it out low A, just below Akali. I would be willing to move it up more if you could convince me. I think like they did such a good job realizing what this character, like this demon of war, wants to be where like he is actively seeking death, and he's so flashy, so fun to play, so fun to watch. Actually a character that I get excited to watch in competitive compared to a lot of the staples that are there. Balance aside, definitely turned a character that was very, very underutilized until the very end of that iteration of Aatrox's, career. The end of that iteration of Aatrox saw zero play whatsoever. Like, this character was never picked, was a troll pick for such a long time. And now is like actually solidly meta the way that I would say Mordekaiser is. What are your thoughts?
I personally really dislike playing against Aatrox, but I do think he's a well-designed character, and I think your placement there right at the bottom of A is appropriate. I think, like, again, balance-wise, I get pissed off playing against characters who can, like the fact that you can miss 2 out of 3 Qs on Aatrox and win trades really frustrates me. Because, like, I'll play characters like Orianna where it's like I hit QW on you 4 times in a row, but you hit me with a combo once and like you out traded all of that. I'm like, fuck, this is a bad game. And like, obviously there's more to it than that, but I do think they did a really good job with him. Like, the Q sweet spot mechanic is like
so good.
a fun little mini game. The fact that he has a little dash, I think he needs it for that to work.
I think the character would be unplayable.
Frustrating. Yeah, as frustrating as it is to have him like constantly eing forward and backward because it's got such a low cooldown. Like, they did a really good job, and then he just runs in and fucks everything up if he's strong. Like, if he's ahead.
Yeah.
So I'm good with low A.
Cool. Next up is Irelia. So this was a character that I am glad that I looked up because I do not remember how this character used to function.
I could tell you how she used to function.
I have it listed.
Earlier.
Okay, well, I have it listed here. Tenacity. She gained tenacity if she was outnumbered, which I did not remember what that passive was.
Yeah. The more enemies are around her, the more tenacity she gets.
Which seems really, really broken in hindsight. But her new passive is pretty good. When she uses abilities, she gets attack speed. It used to be her old Q used to be dash reset on kill. Now it is dash reset on kill and mark. Her old W, it used to be a passive where your autos would heal you, and then when you activate it, it would deal bonus true damage, very similar to Master Yi's Wuju style, his E. And now it's the damage reduction / big slash. Her old E used to be a point and click. It would stun you if you had lower HP than your target. It would stun the target if you had lower HP than your target, and it would slow the target if you had higher HP than your target. And that would be a percentage. Her new E is where you place the two things, and then it stuns between and marks them. The old ultimate, she used to just throw a bunch of blades and heal. And now she has the AoE, slow, apply mark, and it disarmed on release. This is another character, I think, very, very similar to Akali, where the old one was just like pretty bad. Like, I think she saw more play than Akali overall, but it was still not a well designed character. And I think they kept the Blade Dancer, aesthetic and theme, really, really made it flow into a character that feels really fun to play, as evidenced by her win rate not ever being really high, I think, but her play rate always being pretty sizable. I personally find this character insanely frustrating to play against. However, I'm willing to put that aside and I think put her at the very bottom of A so far, just below Aatrox.
Yeah, I would agree with that placement. For me, the one thing I think that they kind of lost in the rework, which as frustrating as her E was, being just a point and click, like, slower stun, like, I did really like the concept, I think, thematically for her of, like, I'm gonna wait to get low and then turn the tables on you.
Yeah.
Right, like that play style of, I'm going to turn a close fight into a fight that I win. And I think she was more of a character, like, if she wasn't crazy ahead, she couldn't just like dive in and murder you, which right now that's much more what she is, where it's like you're hiding behind the minion wave. She gets them all low, Qs 6 times, dives you, murders you, and you're like, oh, cool, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I like thematically that idea of like, okay, like waiting for the perfect moment to strike and not just forward all the time forever, lol, get tower dived.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it was a really good rework overall. She's, I think, a much better character now.
Yeah, I would agree. Cool. Are you fair? Okay with this placement?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good spot.
Next up is Swain. All right, so his old passive, restore mana when he kills a unit. His new passive at the time was pull on crowd control, gain health. His old Q, he would just target an area and it would summon his Raven to deal beam damage to a target and slow them. His new damage is the Death Hand Cone AoE. His old damage was the Never move. He would mark the area on the ground and then snare people if they were in it. Now it's the big AoE Eye of Sauron that you can place everywhere. The old E used to just be point and click and would amplify Swain's damage. I believe that included true damage at the time, which was pretty rare.
Yeah.
Now it's the skill shot, line skill shot root on return, sort of like REQ, but with a root at the back end. His old ultimate used to be the toggle where, it drains mana and heals. Now it's the transform heal big explosion at the end. This, I think, is going to be my first contender for S rework. I think they absolutely kept the thematic of, the battlefield tactician with the demon raven to let him transform into this huge, like, crow demon thing that just kills everyone. I think the current iteration after the mid scope changes to him makes it even better. But I loved released Swain. I think he was bad based on numbers, but his kit felt so good to play. I personally wasn't super married to the previous Swain, so I didn't harbor any ill will towards them changing one of my favorite characters. His design is so fucking badass and sick that like it is, in my opinion, one of the best reworks that Riot has ever released. So I'm gonna place him in the S tier for now. We can discuss.
With you. I agree. I think it was a really, really good rework. I played a lot of old Swain. I play a lot of current Swain. They made him so much better, and they made him like go from I'm like gonna ranged blast you down and then run the fuck away, or maybe alt. Like it was a weird spot. Whereas now it's like I'm gonna walk in because that's the way I kill you. Is just like, yeah, I'm a demon standing next to you, draining you down. I'm gonna blast you with my laser hand every 2 seconds and keep pulling you back in. It's so good.
It's so good.
Again, like thematically, he looks super cool. He just runs people down. It feels great to be like a fed or strong Swain and just like walk into a whole team and it's like, you have to deal with me.
Yeah, it does really feel good when you pop your ultimate and you are like, I am unkillable. Deal with everyone else or kill me instantly because I will win this fight. Like there is no stopping me. So are you okay with the S rank?
Yeah.
All right, Swain, our first S rank. I guess our most recent S rank. Evelyn is next. So this one actually took me back to because I did not remember a lot of these. So the old passive was camo, very similar to now, but it restored mana. Now it restores HP and gives you like actual camo after level 6. The old Q, this one I didn't remember very well. I'm pretty sure it was very similar, but it wasn't a skill shot. It was just a line of spikes that hit the closest targets. Now it's a skill shot. Sorry, let me highlight the row again.
Yes, there's the difference is just the initial proc of the skill shot part, and before it was just mash Q for line of spike.
I thought so, yeah. Old W used to remove slow and she would gain move speed. I don't remember that at all. The new W, she marks the target and it charms after she procs it and it reaches the full duration. The E is relatively the same. You auto attack a target, applies on hit effects, deal damage. It does bonus damage out of stealth now, which I don't think it did before. But pretty similar. I didn't note any changes in the document. And then the old ultimate, her second iteration, which is the one that we're going off of, she would target an area on the ground. It would deal huge current HP damage, so useful to deal, or useful to open with. I think it actually was the only damaging ultimate in the game that didn't have any base damage at all. So you could not kill a champion with this ultimate unless it applied like an item or something like that. The ultimate itself couldn't do anything, and she would gain a thick shield. And then her new one is the ultimate. Is the execute damage and the back dash that we have come to know and hate, I'm sure. Evelyn, I think they did a really good job thematically again, as we can, stick with the theme of Riot's Reworks. And I do think they made her way more playable than she previously was. It's just not something that like is super standout to me. I think the W change was super, super good. It is very terrifying to have a fed Evelyn on the enemy team and then have the mark placed on you, and then have it pop in her direction at the very end. And by then it's too late. If you fucked up or if you've gotten away. And then the ultimate change is really, really good. I think that's actually a fantastic change. But I'm going to put her just below Nunu, just above Mundo. Just above the Mundo line.
I would probably put her above Nunu, but I think I agree with most of all what you said. I think the adding of the W was huge in terms of like thematically it's super good and it opens up a lot more. Like you actually have to do something good, as opposed to before, like way back when your like first ability out of stealth just stunned them, and then I think it became like a slow. I don't know.
That
and
was
then, like, the E.
Yeah, I think that was her very first iteration, and then
that was further back.
She got gutted so hard that if you locked in Evelyn, it was legitimately trolling. I think only eclipsed by Olaf when he got Olafed.
Yeah,
but
I think the E, like the pull through, is really nice. Where like having bonus, like content on your abilities when you pop out of the demon shade is super good. The ultimate is great, like using it to go deeper or to escape, like really shows the difference between good and bad Evelyns. One thing that I don't like about it is just the way that the damage scaling works, where it's like flat amount of damage and then more damage if they're under like 30% health
at certain thresholds.
It shouldn't. It should just be executes under X amount of health. It's so dumb because if they're ever under that threshold, it does enough damage to kill them anyway.
You would think, and then shields and stuff can if she were released today, she would just instantly kill.
It would just kill.
Very Pike-esque in that regard.
I think it's a good placement. I also really like the switch to her passive, giving her health regen while in Demon Shade, is so good because you can dip in and out of fights and actually come back. Whereas before, if that person didn't die and you didn't get like your heal, it's done. Like
it felt really
or
bad.
Unless you had like spell vamp and went to go clear a couple camps, like you only got to go in once, which was lame.
So good change overall. Next up is Ergot. Another fantastic change, in my opinion. Let's see what changed. So his old passive reduced target damage on auto attacks. Like if you autoed or Q someone, they would deal less damage. His new passive is shotgun legs. His old Q was the skill shot in a line, and it would lock on if you hit your E on the target. Now his new Q is the you shoot to the ground, and if it hits, you can lock on your W. The old W was a shield, and it made your auto attacks and Qs slow. The new W, you slow yourself and you attack a bunch. The old E, you would shoot the ground, shred armor, and this would cause your Q to lock on enemy champions. The new E is the dash, shield, and flip. Initially, the shield was on his W, on like rework release. And the old ultimate, you would swap places and get tanky. His new ultimate, skill shot, execute on low HP.
Pull them in on the
Pull them
chain.
in and die and kill them. I mean,
Ooh. Old Ergot holds a very special place in my heart for as awful as he was. Like he was a bad character. He was like okay and very much a troll pick, but he was so stupidly fun to just land an E and like throw Qs at him from a mile away.
he to me is the epitome of like old League of Legends. Like a character
Yeah.
that obviously, very obviously, would not survive in modern day League. The character would be so fucking bad. But was so troll and like good if you were good at the character at the time. Like it was
so
it was so silly, so ridiculous. Like his ultimate was so bad.
I want that ultimate back in the game.
I do too. I do too.
Else.
Definitely on a character that actually, maybe wants
That
to
it
be in the middle
belongs
of the team.
Yeah.
But-
Also, he holds a special place in my heart because I got featured on the old Potato Monster top 5 plays.
Oh,
number
I see.
number one with an
Number
Ergot
one.
pentakill.
I see.
But the new version is so much better.
So much better. Thematically, so sick. So
Oh, yeah.
sick. He feel like
Again.
you can feel his pain of having to fucking live through this. The execute pullback might be like one of the most satisfying like abilities to use in the entire game.
And I love that it fears. Like
Yes.
if it just killed, like that's cool. But the fact that like when he succeeds on it, just fears everyone around him is
it's
just like
fucking terrifying.
You just watched somebody get chained into like this dude's like furnace incinerator grinder
His
stomach.
torso, yeah.
Yeah, he just pulled him inside of him, shredded him to bits, and just continued. It's so good.
Yeah, it is so sick, and it meant nothing to him. I'm gonna put this probably right above Akali in A tier, just below Volibear. Super solid. Obviously, the character sees play every once in a while. He hasn't recently, but made him a viable pick, not a troll pick. Definitely keeps with the theme of this Bane-esque, character. So that's where I'm
I think
him.
it put him above Volibear.
Above Volibear, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
not
fine
as big
with
of a fan of Volibear.
I'm a huge Volibear fan, so
Ergot was so good.
that's all right. Next up is Galio. So his old passive would convert some of his MR to bonus ability power. His new passive is the AoE auto attack slam. His old Q, he would shoot his eyes at an area and it would deal damage. His new Q is the tornado, throw 2 converging tornadoes and they persist for a little bit. The old W, he would apply a buff to an ally or himself, and for every instance of damage that he took, so even like minion auto attacks or ignite techs, things like that, he would heal, and it would I believe be reduced by 50% every single time. It would diminish for each damage instance. Now it's the channel for taunt, and you get tanky. His old E, you would throw a tornado and you'd speed everybody up in that direction. His new E is the dash back, charge forward, knock up enemy champion. His old ultimate was the taunt in the area and then explode at the end. And his new ultimate is the big hero jump to an ally. So I think I have some. This is again a character that I think is like really just the epitome of early League of Legends. So silly, so ridiculous, and at the time like didn't work very well often.
Yeah,
but when it did,
it was hilarious.
it was absolutely insane. But that being
when you
said,
had a high AP and you just like
yes.
flashed on the 5 people.
There is an old Cutie Pie video where he locks in full AP Galio, and the thumbnail shows him dealing 1700 damage to a Graves, I think, and his ultimate deals 1700 damage to a Graves. It is very disgusting. But that being said, new Galio is so cool and has been so so meta, like persistent. He's lasted in the support role. He's lasted in the mid lane for quite some time. I really think his new design was solid. His ultimate feels so good to use. I do think his old ultimate was like something that they could have made a bigger part of his kit. I think they did a good job keeping it on his W, but it felt much better to use his old ultimate. Um, but I'm, good success. I'm gonna put this very top of B, not quite breaking into the A, but really really good.
Yeah, they made him feel so much better and more useful in more situations. Like before, it was weird because you had this like ultimate that you were taunting everyone in this W that made you heal, but he was like a ranged poke mage
Yeah.
with his Q and E. Like it just didn't fit. Whereas now, like he is very much more like a tanky anti-mage. He doesn't do a ton of damage, but he gets in, he CCs, and he does good damage. And like he's a character when his ultimate is down, but his ultimate still feels like really integral to his gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's one of not a ton of characters that feel really good in that way. I mean, I guess there are a good amount, but like
Not
it,
yeah, but not Galio feels like exceptionally good when his ultimate is down
yeah,
still.
right. Like the way you play him, right? Where it's like, okay, you get like Q, E, N, auto, W, get another clap auto. Like all of those trading patterns feel really nice. And like when he has ultimate, great. When he doesn't, you don't feel like you're useless. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
before, it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't have R, and I'm not gonna walk in with W, so I
Yeah.
guess I'll just throw Qs
I
from a distance.
I
It's
think
tough
this
shit.
was a good example of in the first that we've come across of a character really feeling split between I
Mm-hmm.
want to be this engaged tank and I want to be this range poke mage. So a good fix there.
Yeah, and visually, he's so much
Visually
cooler
so
now.
cool. His ultimate is so sick.
Big boy.
Next up is Yorick. So this one I am also glad that I went back on because boy it was tough.
Well,
Um,
he had throw ghoul to move fast, throw ghoul to slow, throw ghoul to steal health.
mm-hmm. Hey, you did it. His old passive, hey, he summons ghouls after he uses abilities, and when the ghouls are active, he gains bonus damage on auto attacks and he takes less damage. His new passive, he gets the graves for units that are killed near him, and when he executes units with Q. The old Q was his next auto attack gains range and damage, and the ghoul it spawned would have bonus attack damage and move speed and give some to Yorick as well. His new Q is the Shovel Slam. It heals a little bit and makes the grave on kill, as well as, revives the ghouls, I suppose, after a certain number of graves. The old W was AoE damage. It would slow enemies and it would spawn ghouls that slow your target. His new W is the Baby Cage, with the number of auto attacks to escape. His old E would be a point and click. It would heal Yorick and it would summon a ghoul that also, its damage healed Yorick. Now it's the cone damage and it marks enemies for his summons. His old ultimate, you would make a copy of a target. If the target died, the target could control that. So if you ulted your Caitlyn and the Caitlyn died, the Caitlyn would then gain control of the copy that you made and play for 10 seconds. And the new one is the Maiden Summon. I think this one has to be like at least pretty high, just because of the sort of
How
absolute
low the bar was.
absolute nothing that they had to work with. The character was so fucking annoying to play against,
Yeah.
not very fun to play as. I do think like the sort of necromancer like summoner archetype is one that's really hard to get just right in a MOBA. They did not get it right the first time, and they did a pretty solid job this time. I think
Yeah, I feel like though they changed it in a really good way in that he doesn't feel like the traditional necromancer
mhm.
anymore, where it's like I summon ghouls that do things. It's like this is my army that follows me while I beat you to death with a shovel.
Mhm.
Right? Like I'm in here with it. And I think that's the big distinction where like that makes it a lot
Yeah, fair enough.
better.
Fair enough. He's not playing
Is
as a
because
ranged character.
yeah, which that was always the issue with the ghouls is that you would just like throw WE from range and never interact.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was awful. I would say probably um probably bottom of A. I think
Okay.
they took like a really bad character into something pretty good. I think obviously he's still very frustrating, but like he's a very straightforward character with like strengths, weaknesses, and again, like it fits his theme a lot better. And they got rid of old Yorick, which is good.
Yeah. You know what? I'll just because of them getting rid of old Yorick, I'll leave it
If you
on
want, you
A.
can put him in like B, maybe below.
I'll
Below Galio.
Below Galio. Okay, that's fine with me.
Yeah, why not?
I was gonna place him, I think, after Nunu before Mundo. But then you said removed old Yorick, so I had to scoot it up a little bit. But yeah, pretty solid. Next up is Rise. My note for this is literally so many changes I cannot fit them into this.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Rise is probably gonna go first into D tier.
I think that Rise is going to be first into D tier, not because I necessarily think like any of his reworks were that bad, but they've just been so problematic from a balance design standpoint.
Clearly, they weren't successful because they had to rework him every year for 6 years.
So like
straight.
but I don't think those reworks are necessarily like bad. You know, I think like at the time they were fine. And then they became problematic because of his interactions with certain items or certain summoner spells. He would just get too bad. Like his numbers would get nerfed. I think they really identified that like, hey, maybe him just having a point and click ranged snare is problematic. And that's sort of where we've fallen currently is like, hey, he still has it, but it requires some setup at least. But it's just the fact that he's been changed so many times that like, and to the degree that Rise has, there's something wrong with this character. He's got to go here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Taric is up next. So previously, his old passive after he uses an ability, his next auto attack deals bonus damage and reduces cooldowns. Now it empowers his next 2 autos after using ability and reduces cooldowns for each auto attack afterwards. His old passive, you would heal Taric and your target. His old Q is heal Taric and target. His new Q is heal AoE around target and heal AoE around Taric and his W mark. His old W, you would gain bonus armor and share it with allies. You would deal AoE damage and armor shred when you activate it, and you would lose the bonus armor. His new W, you mark and shield an ally, and you copy abilities from them. His old E was a point-and-click stun, and the damage scaled with how far away you were from, or how close you were to Taric, I think. So you would take more damage if you were closer. His line stun is his new E. The old ultimate, you would slam the ground, gain some stats, share it with allies. And his new ultimate, after 2.5 seconds, you become invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. I am going to rank this extremely highly, not because he's seen like a ton of play, but I think it really captured what Taric was meant to be and made him one of the most unique characters in League of Legends, where you're literally aiming abilities off of your allies instead of yourself. Thematically, like super, super cool. I actually love his ultimate. I think Taric ultimate might actually be the most well-designed ultimate of the game. It has a 2.5 second wind up. So you get a massive, massive boost, like turn your entire team potentially invulnerable for 2.5 whole seconds with no downside. But you have to be clairvoyant for 2.5 seconds. So it's something that I think like such high reward, such high risk. Like the character feels so good. I'm going to place him, I think, between Ergot and Fiddlesticks in A tier for me personally.
I'm okay with that placement. I agree with what you're saying. Like, there was something to be said about old Taric where he was almost like a burst combo support where, like, I used to play a ton of Graves Taric where you just, like, blow somebody up 100-0 on repeat. But that was not what Taric should be.
Yeah, I also want to add that, like, he was kind of just a ball of stats at some point. Like, he gave you bonus armor.
Give health.
Yeah. Give AD, give AP. Like, that's kind of fucking boring. So this one just changes, like, it changed it in such a positive direction.
Yeah, the passive, like, reset mini game is great. It gives you, like,
so
a lot more to do.
It feels so good
being
when
able to stun multiple people and to aim off allies is so sick.
It feels so good when the correct decision is Taric is I will stand here and auto attack minions to get more heals off because that is the optimal play here. Like it
enables that, weird tank Taric top.
Yeah, and if that allows, like if that is part of your gameplay, that's good gameplay.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, pretty highly ranked on Taric.
Yeah, I'm down with that. The only thing I can say is that, you know, if they had given him what we pitched in our Leaguecast Fixes Champions for Taric,
Yes.
where he is like an ultra ascended gem
Yes.
being, S. If they did that,
Hella S tier. We'd rank it SS. He'd have his own.
We can't rank him SS, Nick.
Oh, true. Sorry, triple S. How about that?
Triple S is fine.
Okay, sorry. Oops.
Speaking of the SS, up next is Poppy.
Yikes. Okay, don't say that. Poppy. So this one was a fucking nightmare. As an old character.
Poppy.
Also kind of an epitome of old League of Legends. So her old passive, anytime you take damage that exceeded 10% of your current HP, you had a you would just reduce that damage by 50%. So fucking wild. Insanely strong sometimes and piss worthless other times. Her new passive, she empowers her auto attack and makes it ranged, and you pick up your shield to get a shield. Her old Q, make your next auto attack real strong. Her new Q, slam the ground and deal damage twice. Her old passive, it was this weird, like, you gain auto attack AD damage and armor when you're dealing or taking damage up to 10 times. And then you can activate it for max stacks. Now it's the, block dashes, including Vein Tumble for some weird reason, and ground your target. The E is remained pretty much the same. And the old ultimate is some of the worst game design I've ever heard of in my entire life.
The precursor to Death Realm.
The precursor to Death Realm with actually zero counterplay. You mark a target, you deal extra damage to this target, and you become immune to all other damage. Except most of the time, you would just mark the support and then insta-kill the AD carry because you've become immune to everything except the Soraka. And now the new ultimate is, you knock people up or away if you long cast it.
Her whole kit did not make sense thematically like that.
Yeah.
I pick you. We're fighting. One, she used it to not fight that person. And two, it just didn't make sense for the character. Whereas now she's much more of a, like, I'm a defensive, supportive tank. Like, I'm going to find the hero. Oops, it's actually me, right? Where she's just like, I'm going to shut down people who are flying around. I'm going to pin you into a wall. I'm going to knock you away or, like, knock you up. It's just like, I'm going to hold my ground, and that's about it. There was some really fun nonsense you could do with, like, the full AP rune page and just, like, someone into a wall level 1 for, like, 200 damage.
Yeah, it was insane.
Disgusting. But she's way, way, way better now. I think her gameplay is just so much better. Like, she's got interesting combo and, like, trade patterns, as well with, like, the option to do, like, quick R versus long R, like, absolutely shut down certain characters with her W. I love that that's an option because a lot of those characters I find super frustrating, and I'm just like, yeah, fuck you, Talon. You don't get to jump over 19 walls in combat. Like, you're grounded. Deal with it.
She really does feel like the anti-movement, character, anti-mobility character. Personally, gonna put her, I'm thinking, like, right above Evelyn after Kayle. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm good with that. Okay. Like, middle pack B.
Yeah. Solid, but I would say, like, not spectacular. Next up is Fiora, a character that you absolutely despise for one single ability.
Yeah, because it's stupid.
Her old passive, you gain HP regen when you hit champions, and that stacks a little bit. Her new passive are the Vitals. The old Q, you dash and you can recast it again. Now it's the dash, the cooldown is reduced if you hit an enemy. The old W, you parry the next auto that you take. The new W, you parry everything. Sorry, the next everything you take, and you stun back on hard CC. The old E, you just gained bonus attack speed when you activated it. And I think that would reset on kill, like killing champions. The new E is the auto reset. You empower your next two autos, one with slow and one with crit. The old ultimate, you become untargetable and hit a bunch of things. And now you spawn the 4 vitals and gain some move speed. So I really like the new Fiora. I think she's much healthier than old Fiora, which was essentially the most stat check champion in the game. If you had weaker stats than Fiora, you lost. If you had higher stats than Fiora, you won. There wasn't much counterplay or potential there. I do think some of her aspects of her kit are very frustrating currently. Anytime you have max health, true damage as part of your kit, it's going to be frustrating because there's no real way to build against that. That being said, I do think this rework was insanely successful. So I would put it probably at the very top of B personally.
I would definitely put her underneath Galio because
I'm willing to concede
sucks
that.
and I hate her. But no, it was a good rework. Like she feels a lot better as a duelist, and like timing and the vitals is just like a sick system.
Yeah.
I don't love that it's like true damage, and I think isn't it percentage like current health or flat? Is it percentage max?
It's percent max HP.
Yeah, I don't love that. I think especially thematically, like it should be just like when you strike vital, you just like get a huge amount of armor pen. Because like I think for a fencer duelist, it makes sense where you're like, oh, I'm poking you where you don't have armor. Like I get why that could be percentage health true damage, but I would much rather have it be like really strong against high armor targets and just okay against other people. I think that would make her feel not as oppressive as like late game when she just like lol 3 vitals dead.
Yeah. That is the bad part. Because there's not much counterplay against that. But seeing a good Fiora play is like so impressive, actually.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, still pretty positive. Next up,
Gangplank.
My guy, it is tough between this and another character. But oh my god, this might be the best rework Riot's ever come out with. Passively, his auto attacks deal magic damage and apply a slow. The new passive is the every once in a while you deal true damage. The Qs are largely the same, so I'm not going to talk about that. W is largely the same. I'm not going to talk about that. The E is truly where the changes begin. Previously, you just shot into the air and you gained stats. Now it's barrel time, baby. In the old ultimate, I put R but random, and the new ultimate R but not random. And that's just an older change, but something I wanted to highlight.
Yeah.
This is... go ahead, because I'm going to gush about this change.
I know. It's wild to me that they took a champion that was like pretty meh and essentially changed one ability and made him so fucking cool.
It's so like, cool.
They changed basically nothing except, oh, he's got barrels now. Wait, barrels are so sick.
Wait, this changes literally everything about the character. It added so much depth to the character.
He is super frustrating to lane against.
Oh, for sure.
When he takes grasp and just Qs you every 2 seconds, but
it's also frustrating to be one shot late game. So
yeah, that's also.
But I think we have to just like completely disregard balance for this because like not only did the gameplay like actually turn into something that was interactive and like very mechanically intensive and super fun to watch, but he fucking died. He died for a week. He died for a week. That's so, and then he turned from this like very whimsical like ha 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 like cartoonish pirate to this fucking undead like badass, like unkillable, not undead, sorry. So fucking sick. Like god, the character's so cool. I'm the very top of S right now. So goddamn cool.
Yeah, a part of me wants to put like him and Swain on the same level because I think again he's got a ton going. He's got a ton going for him. The fact that they only changed like one ability makes me want to put him below Swain, but it's just so good. And like again, the whole event surrounding it and like him dying and then like really shifting his identity. And I think also that was like a major turning point for the like lore of the game.
Yeah,
where it's
I
like
agree.
We're going to a more like gritty, realistic place. And I think that ended up opening the door for a lot of characters we saw later,
Mm-hmm.
and like eventually like for like Arcane being what it is, like if we were still in goofy Summoner's Rift with haha, I'm a pirate with a ship that's flying around and calls down a cannon barrage. Like
Yeah.
that's very different from like, oh, you tried to murder me. Turns out Death's a little bitch and I slapped him. Like
I had oranges and it was K.
I ate oranges and it was
That's a throwback meme.
yeah.
Oh
All
man,
right,
yeah.
we'll put him above Swain.
We'll
We'll
put
go
him
on
above
to other
Swain.
pirate,
Hey, don't worry, spoiler.
but not real pirate.
His reign will be quite short. Not quite short. It'll be pretty short. Misfortune. So the only thing that I could find is her W was changed, I think. And she previously didn't gain attack speed, and now she does from it. But it's classified as a visual update. Very bottom of C, I would say.
Yeah, like it was a necessary change, and it does make her strong, but did like nothing for the identity of the character. And great, we got new visuals.
Yeah. They changed.
Let's put her above Morgana because I actually play her more
Okay,
than Morgana.
I'll put her
Thank
above
you.
Morgana.
And she's a cool pirate lady.
She's a cool pirate lady above Rammus too. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll just keep making excuses to put her in S tier. Good hat.
Nice
guns.
skins, cool skins,
Yeah,
two guns.
No, we'll put her above Rammus.
It has story with Gangplank. That's definitely a bump up.
Yeah, right between Ezreal and Rammus. Next character, okay. Tristana.
Yeah, it's wild that they reworked 3 characters with like guns in a row.
Yeah. Again, another really short one. The only thing that truly changed was her E. Previously, point and click damage over time, AP Tristana, baby. And now it's, you apply the bomb and then you shoot it a bunch to explode it. Again, I think pretty solid, but nothing, terribly impressive. So I'll put it after Ezreal above Misfortune.
Sure. Yeah, like it was pretty solid. It didn't redefine the character. It took away AP Tristana, which while being a good thing is also kind of sad because like you want to play AP Tristana.
It was a good thing for the game for AP Tristana.
It was good for the game, but it was a fun thing to mess around with.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe she still has a lot of AP ratio in her kit. It's just a lot harder to.
You still can
to proc it, yeah. Next up, Scion. And in my opinion, this probably takes the cake. Old passive, 40% chance to reduce damage from auto attacks. And now it's the zombie, revive on death for a short period of time. The old Q, look at him and stun. Point and click stun, baby. Now it's the big slam. Nice. The old W was the shield with AP scaling. I don't think it had HP scaling, and now it does.
It didn't, yeah.
The old E was a toggle. You would gain bonus attack damage, but every auto attack would cost you health. And then you would gain bonus health when you had it active. And now you shout and minions get flown away. The old ultimate, you would just inject yourself with steroids. You'd gain a ton of lifesteal, attack speed.
Wait, did you say what E did?
Yes.
Oh, never mind. You got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You just inject yourself with stats, lifesteal, attack speed, and your attacks would actually heal allies around you. And now it's
ridiculous amount of lifesteal.
It was, I think, the numbers that I'm remembering at max rank, it was 120% lifesteal at level 16.
I think it was like 50, 100, 150.
Hey, you look it up while I talk about
Sure.
Scion. Because now his new ultimate is the big charge. And I think this is like the epitome of how characters should be reworked. I'm putting him number 1. He will not be touched for the remainder of this discussion. Personally, his gameplay is actually so fun. He feels like an unkillable tank that is incredibly disruptive. And when he does die, he's still not actually dead because he actually just hates everything that much. I love his ultimate. It's so good. His Q feels really fun to play and play against, I feel like. The W really rewards farming. It's really cool. His E has a lot of interaction and combo potential with the rest of his kit. Set up the ultimate into slam combo, as we've seen from boss so many times. I think his current iteration has been slightly tainted by inting Scion, which I do think goes against like the spirit of the game. But overall, like, took a character that was poorly designed, 50% auto attack based, monster, 50% AP burst mage, to undead, like, juggernaut tank beefy boy, that just looks so fucking cool. So number one S for me personally.
So yeah, it was 50, 75, 100 was the scaling on the
100,
lifesteal.
okay. Insane.
Yeah, because
imagine a character having
remember
100% lifesteal.
Well, so here's the thing. I remember distinctly back in ye old League of Legends, building AD Scion where I would stack Bloodthirsters.
Yep. Because they didn't have any passives, by the way.
Nope. You would go 1 Tiamat, and I had 220% lifesteal.
Yeah.
Like 600 AD and like 1.5, 2 attacks per second. And I just walked into their fountain, hit them all, and out lifestealed fountain with my 220% lifesteal. It was so fun. That being said, terrible champion.
If I'm not mistaken, that iteration of Bloodthirster also had a stacking like minions mechanic where you would gain attack damage and lifesteal, I think.
Yeah, I was looking it up to see. Yeah, it was
up to a cap.
The lifesteal was like 15%, and it would stack like up to like 22% if you killed enough minions. But he had such a dichotomy between like the good play style was AP,
yes,
and it was stupid, and he just had like 2 useless abilities and 2 100% AP ratios. They made him so much of a better champion, way more like thematically in line. Like the fact that he just keeps getting health for everything he kills is super sick. That he's just like, yep, kill it, keep consuming more souls in the soul furnace, baby. The ultimate's sick. Like the charge up big heavy Q. Like he embodies that slow juggernaut really well. Where it's like, yeah, it's not flashy, but I'm gonna charge up a big Q, and if you don't get out of the way,
it's gonna fucking hurt.
So fucked.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of problems with his passive, but I think in essence it's really cool, and I think that they have made it a lot better now that you don't really deal damage to structures in it.
Yeah.
Because like that's dumb. It's the idea of like, yeah, you killed me, cool, I'm coming back to take you with, not haha, I am lay dead. Punch tower for gold.
Yeah.
He's so sick.
I could gush about the old Scion being so shit and new Scion being so good.
Yeah, that's I think the other thing is that he's in that same tier as like Yorick, where not only is new Scion really good and like interesting, but they killed old Scion and it's gone. And he was terrible.
Sounds like a meme, but like imagine you're playing Ari and 2 of your abilities you just don't want to put points into because they do nothing for you. It was so bad. So bad.
Yeah, like I think an even better example would be like you're playing Vigar and you're like you have your Q and your W and your E and your R are AD abilities. Like
it feels pointless. It feels pointless. Yeah. And then you have the worst passive probably that's ever existed in League of Legends. Like so it was so poor. So yeah, Scion staying in the S tier. I don't think he's gonna get touched in my opinion.
No.
Cool. Moving on, Soraka. Her passive used to just be 16 MR for everyone that was near her. Absolutely cracked, by the way.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was 16 is so much. Anyway, her new passive, she runs fast to low HP allies. Her old Q was the AoE damage around Soraka. That would be a stacking MR shred. The new Q, 1-star call down and slows, as well as gives her the regen and interacts with her heal. The old heal used to just heal and give armor, and now it heals and costs health. Excuse me. The old E used to be able to restore mana to an ally or silence an enemy if you cast it on them. Now it's the silent zone that turns into the root, and the ultimate has largely remained the same. So I feel like this is probably one of the more boring changes because she feels very similar to old Soraka, but they're changes that were definitely needed. Like, you can't have a character just give another character infinite mana nowadays, like, or have a character who's healing on the level that old Soraka was, like, that doesn't cost HP for her. So I'm gonna put her like
Yeah.
very bottom of C. No, you
Oh,
know what? Actually, I'm gonna put her above Morgana still.
I was actually gonna probably put her like above Ezreal, if not maybe above
Oh,
Pantheon.
interesting. Okay.
I think they were really good changes. Like, they made her so much more interesting to play instead of like stand behind AD carry, pump health and mana.
That's
So
true.
like, if you want to be able to do a lot on Soraka, like, you have to get into enemy range and land Qs. The E, I think, is, while stupidly strong, like, also a really sick, like, okay, I'm here to protect you. I can, like, I can heal you. Two, I can shut somebody the fuck
Mm-hmm.
down. Running fast to low targets is such a like good thematic thing, and you just get like hilarious swambulance moments where Soraka's just like sprinting like, I'm gonna save you. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'd say probably top of C, because
I that's
like
my
they didn't.
concession. I hate playing against this character. I think she still
Yeah,
is really unhealthy for the game. But I did forget about the old monstrosity that was, the previous Soraka model. So willing to scoot it up a bit.
true.
Moving on, Victor is up next. So previously he could buy Hex Core as his passive. Now he starts with it just as a passive innate ability, and it upgrades abilities. Old Q would be a point and click shield on upgrade. Now it's the shield and empowered auto. The old W would be an AoE AoE slow stun after, and it just got bigger with the upgrade. It's the same, but now instead of getting bigger with the upgrade, it pulls enemies into the middle. Actually, I don't know if it does that anymore.
I think they got rid of
I
that.
feel like they did too. So yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about the rework as it was, which was pull enemies in. The old E was a laser, and then the upgrade deals damage over time. Now it's the aftershock after the laser, and then it was Chaos Storm for his ultimate, and the upgrade for it came with the new ultimate, which was Chaos Storm but faster. Actually, I'm pretty high on this change. I think it was a good change. Definitely brought the character into modern League of Legends, where you have full 6 items and you don't have to waste it on upgrading your abilities so they're strong. And it doesn't give like crazy good stats, except kind of it does sometimes, and the math is like boring for League of Legends. So I'm gonna put this. I'll put this solidly. I would say solidly below Galio, above Fiora in B tier.
I'm happy to do anything that puts Fiora lower
Even lower,
on the
yeah.
list.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think these are really good changes for him. I think it mitigated one of the worst things, which was like having to base at like 1,000 gold and not being able to buy core, and you're just like, fuck it, the game's over. Whereas now the stack system is so much better. The like changing of the upgrades, I think, was pretty good. Like, the switching the Q to give movement speed, I think, was the big change. Where when it's evolved, now you get the move speed.
I think it gave move speed previously. I think the empowered auto is the new part of it.
Oh, I thought that was always.
No, I think it was just the shield and move speed.
Oh, okay. That I think also still like feels good.
Yeah.
Again, they didn't really change a ton, but they just like made everything
Better.
feel significantly better.
Yeah.
He looks really cool. And again, like, eliminating that awful feel of like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll buy my Lost Chapter components. I guess I'll get a boots. I guess I'll get a need. Like, I'll get a blasting one. Like, there are games you're just like, will I ever purchase my Hex Core?
Well, it's like, oh, okay, the enemy gets to come back with, a blasting wand, but I have to sit here for another 150 gold to be able to afford my hex core because I'm not a character without my E upgrade. It just like made him so much more of a modern day League of Legends character that it was super solid. Cool. Next up is Sivir. So the passive's kind of always been the same. The Q's always kind of been the same. The W previously used to be a toggle, and then it wasn't a toggle for her new W. The old E used to have mana cost and restore more mana. Now then it had no mana cost and restored less mana. And then the only change to her ultimate was it used to give attack speed and movement speed for herself and allies. Now there's no more bonus attack speed, and it had decaying move speed.
Yeah.
I would say this is like pretty okay. I would be fine if she still had the toggle. Personally, I don't think it's like. I think it would be pretty cool to see all those bounces, and it would give her like a fun niche.
Yeah, I honestly would be fine. I think where we are in League today, like her passive is like the movement speed thing, and then just all of her autos bounce. Like, give her a new W. Like, she's got her throw blade, she's got her spell shield. Like, give her a new W, and just all of her autos always bounce. Like, if Zeri gets to exist, and if Felios gets to exist, and Jhin gets to exist, like, why can't she just have all of her autos bounce all the time?
Yeah, and this is coming off the back of a fresh mid-scope update for Sivir, where the changes were actually super good and made her feel really good to play. She's actually pickable. So we're not talking about that, which is actually good. But yeah, I'm gonna say very bottom of B. I think it's okay.
I think we probably put her at top of C.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Because again, I don't feel like they really changed much. Again, they just adjusted everything a little bit.
Yeah, and we are going back in time, where
and it wasn't clearly successful enough because they had to mess with her again all the way in 2022, 9 years later.
But we are going back in time where the changes tend to get a little smaller because they're learning and the characters haven't been out a crazy long time.
I'm just trying to balance the tier list so that it's a nice curve.
True. We can't put any more in B. We've got room for next? 2 more in D and 1 more in C, it looks like. Master Yi. So previously he would gain the double auto on his 8th auto. Now it's half damage after 4 autos. The old Q had a % chance to deal extra damage to minions and scaled with AP. Now it scales with crit and just deals extra damage to minions and has its attack reduced, his cooldown reduced when you auto attack. The old W used to be a channel and you'd get a heal at the beginning and the end, and they smoothed that out. The old
so when they did the first rework back in 2013, autos didn't reset Q timer, I don't think, did it?
I think so. I was looking at the history and it said they did.
They added more reset recently, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
Never mind.
Yeah. The old E used to passively gain bonus attack damage, and you would double that when it was active. And then they switched it to the true damage when active on autos. The old ultimate used to reset abilities entirely on kill, and now it resets abilities by a flat 18 seconds. Or at the time of the rework, it returned it by 18 seconds.
Yeah.
This is the death of AP Mr. Yi. And
which is a tragedy, D tier.
We are truly not sad to see him go. I mean, overall, like realistically, they made him build crit, and that's kind of it. I feel bad putting him on D tier with Rise, but that's kind of where I'm leaning. No, right above Morgana.
I would probably put him behind Misfortune, and we can like put Rammus down into D tier.
What if
at this point?
What if we put Rammus in?
Yeah, pop them both down
Morgana.
there. I don't know if it's fair to put Morgana, man.
But all they did was change
nothing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The changes. Well, yeah, no. She's saying.
No, this is good. We're balancing out the tier list. We have a nice curve.
God. Well, unfortunately, we got more characters. Trundle. So this was a big one. It seemed like at the time, but actually ended up being pretty small. Previously, His Q didn't slow, and now it does slow. That's the bite. His old W granted him tenacity and did not provide increased healing. His new W provides increased healing and no tenacity. And that's it. Everything else was pretty much the same. But I feel like this was another really, really good modernization of a character. A lot of people like his old lore, but if you go back and listen to his voice, God, they did such a good job. So I'm gonna say above. I'm gonna say top of C.
Yeah, I like Trundle. Again, they didn't change a whole lot, but they really, the update like gave him things he should have had all along.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the visual change I think was really cool. He went from like this like scummy, gross, disease-ridden troll to like, I'm the fucking ice troll king, troll chief. Like, get fucked. I'm gonna bash you with my
big
frozen club.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll love me some Trundle.
Yeah, I do too. I enjoy playing him. I mastery 7 on him for a reason. But the changes are pretty small. So awesome. Next up is Sejuani. So her previous passive, one of the last of the big changes, I suppose. This is the next one. Stacking armor and slow resist when you damage an enemy. Now it's the frost armor. So big tank and slow resist, soul immunity until you take damage. The old Q and new Q are pretty much the same. The old W, I don't know if you would remember, but it would empower your next auto to deal bonus damage, and then she would swing her flail around, which was like really, really weird now that I'm thinking back. Now it's the sweep and then line damage, and then the ultimate stunned every target in a certain range around your primary target, and now it only stuns the primary target.
Did they change her E?
No, the E's pretty much always been the same. I think it gained maybe a little bit of damage, but
I feel like it gained some like damage when you proc the stun target, and I feel like
maybe
before I feel like it didn't have like the stacking build up before it triggered.
But I might. No, it definitely. So she definitely had the stacks.
Okay.
I don't remember if she had the shatter damage.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Actually, I do think she had the shatter on her E, but not on other abilities.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, I think that this was a really good change. Like the change just to the W of like the nonsense it was before to now, I think it's like a really sick ability.
Yeah.
And I think fits so much better where you like do the Q and W at the same time, and then you can like throw your R. I don't want to put her like super high because really they just like fixed her W to make it not shit. But I do think it made the character so much better with that small change. I'd probably put her between like Sivir and Trundle.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I was thinking Sivir and Soraka, so pretty much in the same area. Yeah, not much to say. They made her different and better. But nothing like crazy. So pretty solid. Our very last of the huge changes, Karma. I would wager that not very many of our listeners even remember old Karma. Her old passive.
Yeah, fucking put the W on an ally and drag it.
Barely remember the old Karma. Her old passive, you gain bonus AP for missing HP. Now it's the mantra, I believe. Is that her current passive? Yeah. Okay.
Her current passive is that like her ultimate cooldown gets decreased with, like,
by hitting spells. Yeah. Okay, cool. The old
and that
Q,
you have your mantra at level 1.
Yeah. The old Q was just a cone damage in front of her, and the mantra version would heal Karma and nearby allies. Now it's the skill shot and explosion with mantra. The old W, you would tether an ally or enemy, and you would slow the enemy or speed up allies, and then enemies or allies in the tether itself would be affected by the slower speed up. So stupid. Now it's the tether enemy and root them.
Yeah, it's so stupid for like a basic ability with a low duration. I think it would have been like a super cool ability if that was like the ultimate, where it's like I'm tethering a target, and then like me and that target are now trying to like drag this line across people without like breaking the tether at a certain range.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I
Like
could see
that could have
that.
been cool,
Or
but it was just like, why does it even have the effect of dragging it? Just make it
it
like
was
a
weird.
buff to an ally.
Yeah. The old E
E.
was a shield, and then the mantra version you would deal damage around the target. Now it's a shield and big shield. With the mantra version, and the only
Yeah,
change for
move
the
speed with
ultimate,
big move speed.
was I think auto attacks used to reduce the cooldown, and now they don't for her mantra. I think this is a really good change. Old Karma was pitiful to say to say the least. I knew one person who played her, and that was it.
I played Old Karma.
I didn't know you then in 2013.
That's true. You did not know me back then.
And this character has been like pretty much a staple in the support role, occasionally branching out into top lane, occasionally in the mid lane as well. So I'm gonna put her. I think I'm gonna put her like bottom of A. I think pretty solidly bottom of A.
Yeah, they again. This is one where like her stuff like worked, but it was just really not cohesive and not. It didn't feel good. Into now a kit that feels great and like the impactful choice of like which ability to mantra always is a thought. Um, like she's got several different ways you can play her between like full AP, super support, or you can even have like tank bruiser. Karma was a thing for a long time, and I think still
Yeah,
kind
kind
of
of.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say bottom of A works.
Yeah. Cool. Katarina. So previously her old passive reduced cooldowns on kill. Now it's that plus the daggers, and she spins when she picks them up. I guess that wasn't this version, but I've got it marked here. The old Q bounces and marks targets. The attacks and abilities would consume the mark. The new Q, she bounces and drops daggers. It bounces, drops daggers. The old W would spin. So you had this blade spin for a little bit, but before that you had the activate it and then empower your next ability. And then the new W just drop the dagger at their feet. And that's sort of it. She's always had Shunpo, which has kind of done the same thing. And then she's always had the Death Lotus, which always has done very similar.
Yeah.
Old Katarina was kind of a nightmare because I feel like she was hella clunky. I think the new Katarina is obviously really fun to play. She has a pretty sizable like pick rate, despite not being insanely popular a lot of the time. Balance wise, like frustrating occasionally. I hate that she can build on hit and still be pretty effective, but that's not really.
I think that modern change that they added later was, I think, a mistake.
I agree. But that's not really like Katarina's fault. That's
yeah, and that doesn't say anything
Mm-hmm.
about this VGU, which I think was successful and I think really good. Like going from button mash EQ constantly, like when you dive in and like maybe get a second ult, to like, okay, I'm like placing daggers and I have to jump to the daggers to get my resets and to actually like enable my damage, because my damage isn't based on my Shunpo. It's about like hitting the daggers and throwing another Q.
Yeah.
Like again, it's a small change, but it was super significant. I don't love that like so much of her damage is tied up in her passive.
I agree.
But I think like the way you could get around it would just be to like make the W, like make points in W dictate the dagger damage.
Yeah, it just scales with her passive right now.
Yeah.
I guess that would be a good way to do it. Because otherwise you're pumping damage into point and click abilities, which I also don't think is necessarily a good thing. But overall, extremely successful. It definitely has changed her into a team fighting assassin that as soon as you hit level 6, you just roam bottom.
Yeah, and she actually has some like complexity now though of like throw the first dagger, drop another one, E, like get your double or triple E. I think she probably goes towards like middle of the top of B. like maybe between Fiora and Victor.
Yeah, of course. I fucking knew you were gonna say that. Yeah, I was
Yeah, gotta.
thinking. I was thinking bottom of A, top of B. So
You know
willing
what?
to.
Actually, I'm good with putting her like under Karma at
Sure.
A.
Yeah.
I think it was actually because like she feels so
It
much
was pretty
cleaner now.
sizable. It was a pretty noticeable change.
Yeah, and
So
even like the Q, not only the dropping dagger part, but just like the old bounce of it felt so dumb.
it was so
Where
bad.
like now it feels like faster and cleaner.
It used to have diminishing damage based on the number of bounces. So after
Opposite Jin Q.
yeah, opposite Jin Q sort of. But her W used to empower it, so it dealt full damage to everyone. Like it, just
Yeah,
not a good ability.
her W making your next ability just do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is such a relic that like in comparison to Karma, where you have like meaningful choices to empower, where it was just like, do I want Q do damage or do I want Shunpo reduce damage?
Yeah, it was kind of insane.
It was dumb, yeah. So I think that leads us to the last
Finally,
one.
Tryndamere is listed. I truly, this is before my time, I believe. Just barely. No, this is after. I just don't remember this at all. I'm pretty sure they just made his abilities free to cast. That's what I could find on the wiki. So I vote that we make a new Tryndamere tier. And
At the very bottom.
At the very bottom. I don't know how to do that very well. Add a row below. Okay.
There you go.
Here we go. Exit, and we'll call it Tryndamere. And we'll just throw Tryndamere there. Because he is listed, but like, we'll talk about him when he actually gets reworked. So there it is. That's the definitive ranking of VGUs for League of Legends. Do you have any final thoughts? Any last minute changes that you want to make?
I mean, part of my OCD brain wants to just like
of course
shift
it's
one.
Got to be the perfect
B,
bell curve
from B and down into C, or like from A down to B as well. But I think this is a pretty good, and I think the heavier weighting at the top shows that like most of them were pretty good.
Yeah,
like they've done a good job, and obviously like some of the older ones were more just like, hey, we're gonna fix some issues that existed with these champions, and like if they had been released a year later, they just would have came that way. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for some more S tier reworks in the future. Hopefully,
I know the next one up is Udyr, so potentially depending on how it goes.
He's definitely got the potential.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, if that's what you choose to do, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.
Bye.